Okay, so what are we going to do today? Today we're going to basically write a complete static blog post. That well, not a blog post, but a blog system. So what are we trying to achieve? We're trying to achieve to basically use the blua.blue content enablement platform in order to author our blogs that we then going to deploy via the webhook capabilities into a static page. We're going to use PHP for that, and the result should basically be that we have a super fast static generation of our blog posts, and we're going to achieve that relatively easy and quickly. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to basically, I called it static blog. That's an empty directory right now, and in order to develop, I downloaded blua.blue. It's open source, so I'm running it from localhost. That helps me developing. That's not necessary, but it makes things so much easier. And also, if you think about like if you want to run things from a company perspective and so on, like you can basically have that installed locally. And then just distribute your content from within either your private network or a particular machine. So right now I'm just running it from my particular machine. So first thing I want to do is I'm gonna sign in here and go to my settings, and where it says API I can authorize webhooks. So that's what I'm going to do. So static blog is what's going to be here. So if I say localhost static blog, then this is what I see. So this is the directory I'm in, and that's where I want to start to, oops. So at the end of the day, if I deploy this somewhere, I need to change this naturally to the actual endpoint. So right now it is localhost static blog, and we're gonna call this receiver PHP. And token is something secure. For now, I'm gonna call it my secret. Make this something long. I'm just doing this now for development purposes. So this is now the webhook that is going to trigger on article creation, article updates, and article deletion. So first thing I need to do is I have to account for a Apache. So I'm going to create an htaccess file. And why is this important? This is important because Apache has some weird thing. Hold on, rewrite engine on. Right condition is basically anything. Let's catch this, and this should be HTTP authorization. Yep. Any. Okay. Right rule would then be and the authorization. Oops. Yeah, that should do. Yeah, that should do. Okay. So again, you don't need this on it depends on your system, but Apache has this weird thing. So I want the server variable to be set. So the next thing we're going to do is basically we're going to create our receiver, and basically let's test this first here. Let's just say var dump. Or you know what we're going to do for easier debugging? We're going to basically create a function logger. And so for whatever comes in here, we're just going to do file for contents. And then this would be this directory log JSON, and we're going to say JSON encode input. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to say, let's try this out and see if the server variable is set the way we want it to. So that should now be HTTP authorization. Okay, so let's create a, oops, it's so not what I wanted. Right. Okay, so let's create a new, let's not make this public. This is naturally, I'm running this locally, so this doesn't really matter. But here's test static blog. Okay, some test. Let's add a category, test, and regular content here. Hi there. Okay. Okay, so if everything goes right, and it already didn't. Okay, so what we probably should do here is have a little look at the network tab here. And I normally do this on 2 screens. This is really a little bit inconvenient, but let's just try it out. All right. So what did we get back from webhooks? API error. Okay, that is the xdebug. Oh, wait, this answers access forbidden. Wait, what? Okay, that already starts with a little error here. Let me see. Oh, my bad. Nope. What am I doing wrong? Ah, there we go. Okay. Let's do it again. Saved. And let's see how that looks like. Okay, this is empty. So this should in theory have worked, but yes it did. Verify secret. Perfect. Perfect. So that works now. That is good. So next thing we were going to do is we are now basically going to see whether or not this is the right kind of call, right? So let's forget about this for now and go to the actual action here. So we're just going to say, okay, I've got my secret here going. And that was, oh, I forgot now. What was it? My secret. Okay. And then basically, we're going to say, first of all, whether or not this is set. And this equals my secret, right? Okay, so in this scenario, we want to basically react on things. So what is it we want to react to? That is, oh, actually, wait, this is not correct. we need to get rid of this 1, 2, 3, 7. Okay, got it. What we need to do is to ensure that you know, like only this is what we're going to check against, right? The bearer token itself, that it comes with bearer that we know, that we can assume. So if basically from line 7 on it is equal to my secret, then we're good to go. So so if that's the case, we probably want to execute something, right? Let's start. I mean, we need to clean this up later anyway, but let's start with our actual class here. All right. So what we want is probably a construct here. What's going on with you? Oh. All right. Okay, so here we already know that we probably want to put this in here. Yeah, so let's take this one down here, and the only thing we're going to say here is new receiver. New receiver. Okay, so here's the setting. This we're going to delete later also. So now here we have, and let me actually get this a little bit out here so we can see this. Now my secret isn't taken here. That is fine. So let's clean that one up too. And say my secret. And then we can get rid of that one as well. Okay. So we pass that in here, and then now we see, okay, everything should run. So the first thing we need is we need to fetch the data somehow. So we're going to say fetch data. Jesus, should have really had coffee before. It's always my Saturday mornings are kind of blurry. So what shall we need here? So we need a function data, a variable data. So that's what we're going to fill. So we are probably going to check it like this, right? And say the data is file get contents, and we're going to take the input stream to get that, and then we're going to basically see if that is the case. So this will come as JSON, and we want to have this as something a little bit more accessible. So I am going to basically make an ASIC out of it. Okay, so now we have this. So here we basically say fetch data, and we're going to use our logger in that case, and see if that's something we actually receive. Let's see. So ideally perfect. Perfect. So here we get the article. Very nice. Very nice. So receive the article and now have it available in this data. So next thing we want to do is we need to basically account for a couple of things. So what we see when we look at is that the event is updated. So this was already created. I don't know if this is actually something that is explained. Let's have a quick look at that. Created, updated, and deleted. Okay, makes sense. So we should probably account for that. Let's do this here. and basically say switch for this data event. Jesus, okay. And so what do we have to account for? What is going on here? We have to account for create and actually I don't think that there will be a difference. So this will be some kind of write function, right? Write to file. And then we break, and then we need to account for the case delete, something, and then break. Don't know what that is yet, but let's start with that one. So data is available. Now the question is, oh, actually, you know what the question is? Which one did we start? Static blog. The question is drafted. Yes. So probably the next thing we want to do is we want to see, yeah, publish date. No. So we probably don't want to just publish drafts, right? So the next thing we probably want to see is whether or not that's the case. So here we're going to start the whole thing with if this data payload publish date yeah is set, right? Yeah, so null does. Okay, that will be false. That's fine. And do you even want to pass in this? Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So if that's the case, then we basically want to start, you know, like writing the file. So let's talk about like how we're going to do this. Let's create a directory, and I'm going to call this blog. And let's create another directory that I'm going to call assets. Okay. So then we need some sort of template, which we're probably going to put in assets. Is that enough? Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, so I would like to have my articles in the blog directory for now, at least. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first see whether or not the file exists or not. Let's actually look at the file location first. Okay, so the file location should be, and I probably want to have a path variable because I need that for the ops anyway. Okay, what I'm going to do all the way on top is I'm going to define a path variable. And I do that for multiple reasons, but it makes it easier later for the template engine I'm using, because then basically I can normalize this, and you can place this in a subdirectory as well, and it will work fine. So I'm going to define path, and that's the directory that we're currently in, because we're here on, yeah, that's fine. So, and then here on the file location, I'm simply going to say path, and then blog, and then I'm going to use the slug. Is that correct? Yes. So everything has a unique slug, and that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to say this data, oops, payload slug, and we're going to make this HTML files. Very simple. Yeah, that's all we need to do. And so what we now need to see is, of course, whether or not that, oh, we already know that it's published, so we're going to override it, whether or not it's updated. Yeah, no, we're fine. So now we're basically going to place it using a template. Now let's do the following, because I'm not simply going to do composer require neon3 apps ops. Should be enough for my templating. Gonna take a little second. Come on. There we go. Okay. Okay, this basically means that I will require the actually path vendor autoload. So that's from the composer. So we have everything available as we want it. So now we still need a template. So let's create a template in here. And that's going to be fine for now. That's going to be fine for now. And so let me see how this looks like. Where is my actual content? Here. Okay, so in the payload content, that's an array with the various parts of the content over here. Okay, so the title name. Okay, so here we simply say name, and in the body we're going to create some form of, I don't know, container maybe, and then we're going to say h1 is name. And by the way, if you're not familiar with ops, so this is super simple. This is just server-side rendering. And then here we're basically going to say content part, and here we're going to say n4. So this is from ops. So it doesn't like that. I'm just going to tell my editor that it's a custom attribute. And in here I just write exactly as I would in a PHP for each. So content, okay. Content as content part. And in here I can probably write content part, content. Is that correct? Yes, content, okay. Okay, which basically means I can do the following here and basically say content is neon3 apps ops embrace from file, and the location in that case is from the path, so it's assets template HTML, and we're going to place in this data payload. Okay, and then the only thing we're going to do is we're going to do file put contents, go again into the file location, and place the content. Okay, let's try it out. So this already looks like an issue. So something did not work. Well, with our log we got this in, You know what? Instead of that, let's see what the issue is. Oh, payload content. Wait, I'm doing it wrong, right? No, I'm placing in the payload. Okay, well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna write the content quickly. Let's see if that changed anything. Okay, I didn't get that far. So we probably have some kind of issue here. So unfortunately, let's see what's happening. And as you know, debugging is everything there is. So I have an error without any kind of information. Now that's wonderful. Well, let's see how far we get. Let's see how far we get. So the problem that I have right now, by the way, if you're wondering, since I'm running both of those, so setting up Xdebug would be very painful to where the error occurs because they're both running on the same system. Probably should have done that though, thinking about it now, but it is what it is. Okay, we don't get to this point. We don't even get to this point. So does the fetch data not work? Maybe. Wait, this data event updated. What did we write? I should have read that. That's already our issue probably. Yeah, that's already our issue. So here, we get into publish date. We're not going to write the blog, so here's still a problem. And the content. So if we don't get in here, let's log this then. See what the issue is. Null. Yep. Ah. Okay, the issue is it works. So this is drafted. It's not supposed to do anything. So let's do save and publish. Again, when you're in the live system, be careful not to click that little box here. And now basically, yep. Yeah, now we should have it. So yeah, sometimes the issue is that it's working. So as you can see, now we have a block, static block HTML, right? And that's how it looks like. Let's actually look at it like there and say, so this should now be in blog, and then test static blog HTML. And so this is literally my static page that I just created right here in blog. And that's pretty awesome. So right now I'm basically already at the state where I say like, okay, so I can generate now content based on this little snippet will basically write. And the only thing I would have to do now is basically say I'm going to change the template accordingly. There are a couple of pitfalls though that we should probably consider. So for SEO reasons, for example, or not even for SEO reasons, I mean in general, I would like to have links to the other blogs, so to the siblings of this as well. So let's basically create that too, and say write and get menu. So always do that. Okay, so we're probably going to use the same file location. And you know what I just noticed? We're probably going to do it like this. Right, article location. Actually, let's do this local article location. And then we don't need to do this here because it's always going to be the same. Yep. Let's quickly do that here. Let's do it really clean. Set local article location. I apologize, not my day. Okay, and also not my day at all. Okay, and then we basically say this local article location is location, which is something that we're going to pass in here, and let's be done with it. Or not even that. No. We're going to do this directly here. Okay. So we probably need this in either case, right? No, let's do that here for now. No, let's do that here. Okay, let's do that here. And then this we don't need anymore. Yeah, instead, here we do this local article location, get rid of that one. And here we basically do the same here. So then we basically say yeah, so we have now the problem that we have to account for a couple of logical things, right? So this could be the second article, which basically means that the first article is already in existence. And in that case, yeah, we're going to do this per JSON. We're going to have this as primitive as possible, okay? We're going to call this menu JSON, right? Which ironically is on our end going to be, what's it called? Yeah, we're going to do it even differently. We're basically going to say if file exists, and it's going to be path, and we're going to have that in assets, menu.json, and that's basically what we're going to do here. JSON file is this. Okay. So if that's the case, then actually let me copy that. Then this is file get contents, JSON file, and in that case we also need to JSON decode it. And again, we're going to do this as an ASOC, so we're nice and clean here. And this is basically now our else. Okay, so either we already have a menu JSON or not, or we're going to generate an empty one with you know, the relevant files. So, and then we need some kind of structure. So this now either has, let me think how the structure is going to look like. So here we're going to say, okay, for each menu JSON as menu item, and this could basically be an indicator here. So we have to account for that it could be updated and it could already exist. Yes, that is actually the point. So if menu item, let's see, we're gonna call this link, right? Yes, we're gonna have it link in the name. Okay, so link is, and then we need the slug. Yep. Yep. This data payload slug .html. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Yeah, then menu item name, yep, is basically, let's account for it, that we could possibly change the name. And found is true. Okay. So what are we doing here? So apparently I'm planning a JSON consisting of an array that has basically a link and a name property for each object that it has, and we basically going to account for also changes in the value. The slug cannot change. That's unique in one set. That's never going to happen. But of course the actual title can change. And then here, this is why I have the found, right? And say, okay, so if not found, so it's not in the menu, then we're going to add it to the menu. And basically going to say then menu JSON, and here's our actual input here, and so now this has a link, which of course is simply this. Yeah, and it has a name, which is simply this. Okay, so there are two things we want to do. Of course, we need to return this now. And what we also want to do is we're going to say file put contents. I'm going to write that back, the changes, to the JSON file. So that's the path. Actually, let's and here we're going to do JSON encode menu JSON. Okay. Okay, so the only thing that we have now here as the problem is this. And the question is whether or not we're simply going to add to the payload. Let me quickly see, is that a stupid idea or not? Why not? This data payload, and then we're just going to call it links is this write and get menu. Okay, so now we have it here. Now we place it into the template, which basically means if we were to iterate over it, so let's just say over here there's going to be something like a header maybe, right? And then we're going to say, okay, ul and for links as link. And then here we have link and link name. Okay, now that was a little bit wild. Let's try it out. Okay, so let's see, and that looks perfect. I mean, I don't know why it formats it like this, but that should basically be it. So if I go here, yes, so this is my only entry. Okay, so far so good. So we've got that figured out, and so we now have basically this menu JSON here, which consists of one. So again, let's be smart. So let's just say we have an additional article, which I'm probably simply going to produce at this point, and say right, and second test, la la la, and some another test, not that one, and then save and publish. Okay, now we should, but we don't. What is the issue here? It's currently drafted. Oh no, that's a problem over here. Come on. Yeah. Okay. So now we have a second test HTML. Now you can see now that even if I reload this first one, I still only have one menu. So in the menu itself, I do have two entries, but of course, what I've actually written to the static blog was written before the other one existed. So that only has one hard-coded link in here, which is fine from an SEO perspective, because the search engines will go to that one and then find, where are we? If we find the second test, right? Yep. Second test HTML. Oops. There we go. Would find this one and then basically index the other one accordingly. So we're not really concerned from it from an SEO perspective. We're concerned from it from a user perspective, right? And how do we overcome this issue? Well, we probably overcome this issue by thinking about that this is probably not how our blog's going to look like eventually. So let's create a couple of assets here that we want to do. So I want to have a JavaScript file that I'm going to name script. And in my template, I want to include a couple of things. So let's actually use view, but this is just an example, so you use whatever you want to. And let's get this done here. Nope. So we're going to load that one. And here at the end of the body, we are going to load, and it says script.js, which is funny, but from the perspective of where it's going to be go once out, then go to assets, and then go to script. Right? Because so it will, this is just a template, but it will be under blog this is where it's actually going to be used. So from there, I want to get one out and then to assets and then include the script. So in our template, what we do here is probably here we're going to say blog menu instead of this. And in my script, I can then do, okay, you are actually const blog menu. So I'm just going to jump over this a little bit because I'm not sure if you're familiar with Vue, but it really doesn't matter. The idea is that we're going to generate the menu per JavaScript. So blog menu, and this basically has a particular template that we're going to talk about later. Let's call this template for now. Yep. It's also constant. Okay. And so the next thing we're going to do is we need mounted. And that is going to be a fetch. And now we're going to grab the menu. So okay. And here we basically, here we have to start with stuff that you will have to need to do here in order to simplify this quickly. So this is something you will need, menu URL. You will basically need to, adapt accordingly. So I'm going to do localhost and static blog assets menu.json. Okay, so wherever that lives, and then here to a menu URL, then yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. That should be fine. It's just a file. Yeah. Okay, and now let's create some data here. And it needs to be a function, right? Yeah, it needs to be a function that returns an object, and it's going to be called menu, and it is going to be an array. And then here we're going to say this menu equals res. Is that correct? Yes, that should be correct. Okay. Now let's quickly talk about what we're going to do here. Let's simply say those are buttons for now. Yeah. No, those are simple. I'm going to make it even more simple. So this is vbind href. So what we should have here at this point is the link. We also need to have a v4, and then we say, how's this look like again? Okay, menu. Yeah, let's call it link in menu. And then here we would have link, not kink. And here we would have link name. Oops, not sure what I'm doing here. Yes, this is as primitive as it gets, and that should work. So now naturally we have no Vue instance running, so let's quickly do that. How does that work again? Just new Vue. New Vue. L? Yeah. I don't know, blog. Sure. So this whole container that we're using basically should be the view app, and the only thing we need here is probably components, and that is, yeah, that is like this. I hope I'm right with that. And components is, sorry, how do we call it? Blog menu, okay? Blog menu. Blog menu, and that is our blog menu component from up here. Okay, let's give it a shot. And so we now have naturally the problem that we have to fire this again. So that already seems to be a problem. Let me see what we have here. Can't use v4 for stateful component root element because it renders multiple elements. Oh, right. That's a thing. We need a, let's avoid this issue right now. This is not about how to style things. Okay, there we go. And there we go. So now we're basically done, right? The only other thing we could potentially do, and this is probably something you want to do, is you probably want to have a style sheet, and let's say that's the same. Assets, style, CSS, or include whatever you want. And then we're gonna say our container, I don't know, has a padding of 20 pixels. I mean, whatever. It really does not matter. Okay. And now basically you're done. So what have we achieved now? So that's all we needed to do. This is our complete application, right? I mean, okay, we forgot to delete, but I mean, we can take care of that some other time because I want to keep it less than an hour. So we have now basically the linking, and this is already it's in existence. Oh, that's actually super important. Is that in here? Yes. Okay, that's important to understand, right? So I'm writing this. This is not what we see. Right, this is not what we see here. This is basically just for the search engine. So if I were to go and say, okay, what is in here, then I see those links are hard coded, right? So Google can find them and index them accordingly, and basically have a very, very semantically well formulated web page. I mean, I could like go into detail about what needs to be done here to make this logical, but as you can see, that is basically the approach. So from that moment on, what I can do now is when I deploy this, the only thing I change is in the script JS, I would change, this is where my actual deployment menu is, and in my blua.blue, I would basically just change the webhook. I don't need this anymore. I would just change the webhook to my actual deployment, and or from now on I can also just use the blua.blue, the actual web page rather than my local installation. That depends on what I want to do. So that's basically it, and I'm probably going to include the receiver PHP actually in a gist for you to download, and I hope you have fun. So what you achieved now is quite substantial, So now we have one of the fastest blog sites around, because it's literally static pages, and you can dynamically change them, right? So I can basically go and say, sure. So my second test is now something I'm gonna change. Right, and that's basically it. What you see here in the development mode, I mean, of course, you know, when you're using Vue, I mean, you can do that however you want to. Then you should probably switch over to the production level eventually, or load this locally. You know, like have a more complex setup depending on what you want and your CSS frameworks and so on. I mean, you can make this super pretty now by well, you know, pampering the template the way you need it to look like. Thank you so much for watching. Hope this helped. I know this is a little bit different than what we usually do, but I wanted to start something from scratch and, you know, basically just try something out myself of how long would it take to implement a, you know, webhook approach. So thanks for joining me in this journey, and I hope you have a great, well, rest of your day.